Very good. Let's begin. Good afternoon and hello. Welcome to CodeNow's webinar, Innovate Your SDLC. My name is Marek Pikna, and Petr Svoboda, the founder and CEO of CodeNow, will be delivering the webinar. In the meantime, if you have any questions that you would like to ask during the webinar, feel free to use the chat functionality and we will get to the questions at the end of the session. So Petr, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Let me just do a little improvement over here, so maybe you can see me now. Okay, so let's get started. So when innovating software delivery lifecycle, at the beginning, we need to be able to name the problem. So here are three most common problems we are seeing at our customers that organizations are having that are let's say, making software delivery a little bit more difficult than we would like to see. Fragmented delivery is a concept where a single business request has to be fragmented into multiple smaller delivery projects because of the software architecture. Simple example could be you want to introduce a single field to an online form, but then the data is read and propagated to multiple systems, and they need, because they are tightly coupled, they need to be implemented and delivered to production at the same time. And then the delivery is fragmented into multiple teams, and they have to be coordinated, unfortunately, in many times through meetings. So that's one of the typical problems. How to avoid that situation, how to improve that? Well, through software architecture. Software architects can essentially design a software solution in a way that you have a, let's say, business cohesive concepts aggregated into single delivery team, and therefore you're able to deliver whatever change request within single team, which can later on propagate information across the enterprise through asynchronous means like events. When you are going to change software architecture / delivery concept into this form, you will most likely witness a skills gap, because suddenly more developers and more team members will start facing situations like, I need to spin up new environment, I need to be able to find logs at certain environment, I need to be able to spin up a new database, new message broker, you name it. And then if these functions are not delivered through self-service, most likely you will end up writing a lot of tickets and waiting for some central team to fulfill those tickets. And in the meantime, well, you just wait, or you do a context switching, which is harmful for developers, as we know. Last but not least, it's about team constraints and autonomy and empowerment. So if you are not able to fulfill those needs through, or sorry, if you don't want to fulfill those needs through centralized teams, but you would like to introduce some self-service, you are then solving the problem of team constraints and increasing the autonomy of the team, which can then within, I don't know, maybe Scrum, maybe Safe, maybe less, or any other methodology, move ahead in their own pace. So when we take a look at the whole SDLC and you want to improve something, what is essential is to take a look at the problem from the holistic perspective. It's not only about software, it's not only about automation, it's about a lot of other things that are part of and are influencing overall performance. So there is something called culture. You definitely want to have a collaborative culture within the enterprise. How to ensure that? Well, typically you don't want to shoot across the teams, some bullets, but you want to be able to deliver stuff on your own and not being dependent, and therefore not being able to deliver because somebody else in different team didn't do their job. When you create such environment, people tends to be more collaborative because they are delivering something in concert and they are not essentially depending on each other. Product / service design. How do you actually design the product which is being implemented? How are teams organized? What skills do you have in a single team? Can you deliver front-end as well as back-end, as well as AI, maybe as well as automation within a single team? what is the delivery process. If you will go more towards agile, you will skip the thorough planning phase, and therefore you will suddenly start seeing a thing that in the middle of the sprint, somebody will come up with a requirement. I cannot fulfill my task because I need a new cache to be implemented. And I did not think about it upfront, because only now I'm researching the user story in detail. So again, the process is inherent part of the software delivery lifecycle. And last but not least, it's definitely the architecture. There are problems which are completely fine to be solved as a monolith, maybe modular monolith. There are problems which are completely fine to be solved in a waterfall way of delivery. On the other hand, if you have more agile way and more distributed kind of software architecture, you will find yourself in a situation that you are juggling with multiple balls at the same time, and without a lot of automation in the underlying layers, like infrastructure, provisioning, continuous delivery/observability, developers will feel a lot of pain, and they will not be leaving the workplace at the end of the day as a happy developers. So when thinking about innovation of SDLC, what are the ultimate goals? I would say it's definitely looking towards how to shorten the overall time to market of what is being delivered. At the same time, how to improve the developer experience so we have happy developers and not sad developers at the end of the day. How to innovate? Well, as I said at the beginning, you have to touch the teams, you have to touch the architecture, and you need to speak to your business stakeholders, because proper alignment of all these components is prerequisite to the software delivery and automation itself. Okay, so let me show you some example situation what we are observing very often. Here simulated in a sample ticket agency or ticket reservation application, where I am at the beginning in a situation that I have a lot of legacy systems which are implementing bits and pieces of the ticket reservation customer journey. I have old CRM, I have some ticket catalog, I have some notification subsystem, maybe part of some other big package. To do it in a, let's say, more decoupled way within which the software delivery can be very much automated, I need to change the architecture a little bit. If I want to be able to do continuous delivery to the front-end part and to be able to do intraday deployments under the full load, one thing is, let's say, the underlying automation. We will talk about it later, leveraging Kubernetes, containers, autoscalers, and automatic balancing, maybe canary releases, maybe A/B testing. Nonetheless, I have to make sure that there are no pending connections directly from the front end to the legacy backend. Because at the moment I will cut out these pieces from the production, well, anything that is sitting here on this synchronous interface will immediately cause a termination. That's why front-end component and API to that front-end is decoupled from the business logic, which is doing the heavy lifting of mastering the new data as well as propagating the information to the legacy backends. This way, I can take my own pace, how fast I will be able to decommission these old systems, and when this new domain of reservations will be able to serve as a new single source of truth for the data about ticket reservations. I have another domain here called notification application, delivered by completely different team. You can see that I have two team boundaries here. Each team is decoupled and is able to deliver features to production in their own pace, at their own will, and they don't need to coordinate with others because they are asynchronously integrated, and they are communicating with each other over versioned messages with some predefined schema. So if I will start producing new kind of notification with a new version of data. Well, the old messages will be probably handled by the older version of notification component, and the new will be handled by the newer version. I can have those two running in parallel, maybe in two different namespaces, maybe in two different clusters. That's entirely up to you. So now let's take a look how this solution can look like in code now. I will just log in over here. So now I have signed to the tenant called Stratox Playground. You can see that I have a teeny tiny infrastructure, 16 cores, 60 gigs of memory, single Kubernetes cluster running in this case at AWS. But from the Code perspective, this should not. This should be basically transparent to the developer. You can see that I have two tiles. Well, at the moment, I'm acting as the owner of this space, so I can see both applications, travel demo reservation, it's calculated DORA metrics, as well as the application of the other team. So first, let's take a look to the reservation app. You can see that I have three components, one in front end, doing the front end implementation, business logic, and API, which matches front-end business logic API over here. You can see that there were some pipeline runs that have delivered semantically versioned components. You can see some overview of latest builds information coming from the CI engine. I believe in this case we have a Tecton as the CI provider. I can take a look at the detail of the component to see the full history, to see the detailed pipeline runs, to get all the detailed information, because the productivity of the developer at the end of the day is about navigability and having all the relevant information at the fingertips, because what makes sense to innovate and improve inside of the SDLC is activities that developers are repeating most often. If I'm touching something 100 times a day, I should be able to get and to be able to realize the task in no time, because otherwise it will create friction and people will become fed up sooner or later. So how did the pipeline run? Well, for some people, the pipeline run is not actually that much important as the outcome. So I have produced a container. How can I download the Docker image? There was a code quality check. Show me how did the code quality actually ended up. Did I pass the quality gate or not? Did I version something in the Git repository? Maybe was this release somehow tagged so I can refer to it? All this information are crucial to be quickly available for everyone. You have junior developers, you have media developers, you have senior developers. Of course, some people are very proficient with the command line, and they will say, oh, this is just a boring GUI I don't want to go to. And they might be right. But don't forget about developers that might be learning, and you want to actually have them to be onboarded as well and feel part of the team. That is how you build a culture. I will not go into detail of all the configuration settings over here. Instead, I will rather move to another critical phase of software delivery, and that is assembling a package. Multiple people, maybe from multiple vendors. The team that is delivering this travel demo reservation might not be the full-time team that is sitting together for a whole year. It might be a virtual team where somebody is sitting in Malaysia, some other people are sitting in the US, and all together they are making a single application. But because they are working in different time zones, it could be a bit difficult to coordinate sometimes, So a release manager can then have a capability of creating an assembly, a package, where I will say, okay, let's create a new release of this solution. What version of API I want to have as part of this assembly? I can pick on what basis. Well, you need to integrate some planning tool. Either it is a Jira or Linear, or it could be Redmine. It could be whatever tooling you are using for planning, but you have your user stories somewhere. And the metadata within the planning tool to be tightly integrated. And what is most essential is the versioning, semantic versioning to the rescue. So I will say, let's create a new release on some sample configuration. Here it tells me, oh, be aware that there is a newer build. I don't mind. I will label this just a demo test and do not push to production. I will say this is a new major version of the assembly, and I can continue to deployment itself. So now I have created a metadata, this putting together all components of a single domain. If you follow domain-driven design, we can call it a domain, and I want to deploy it somewhere, some environment. Well, this is saying me, well, be aware that this is production environment. Code now actually says there is a problem with configuration. You should create a new one. So let's create a configuration. GitOps is here, so it will tell me what configurations files were actually loaded from the Git source tree. Might override something, but for the sake of the demo, let's say this is the configuration I want to go with. When I have the package created, configuration created, you will end up with the deployment itself. So in this case, you can see that at the environment travel dev, I have some release with some configuration created. Argo CD is telling me that this deployment is healthy. Most often, what I'm looking for, dynamically generated, fully qualified domain names equipped with TLS certificates. Show me my demo app. Here it is. I will open some debug. Let's say I will go to Hamburg as a test user, testuser.com, submit, created successfully. Thank you very much. Let's take a look how this particular interaction was happening. As a developer, I'm doing mistakes. I'm probably happy with my part. Maybe I'm not happy with some other part. Was it fast? Was it slow? I don't know. It seemed to be fairly quick, but is that really a true? Let me show you some tracing that will show me the hidden details. Because back to the design, as you can see from the front end, I have submitted a single post which ended up in some Kafka topic, and later on it told me created successfully. So the message had to fly through Kafka to business logic, get stored to the database, call some backend systems, and generate notification to tell me that that was a success. If I will take a look here, what was actually happening, you can see that through Ingress, I have received some call that went to API component endpoint post, which sent it to Kafka. Business logic component from the other end of the queue did poll of that message, triggered on message handler, saved it to the database, called one legacy, second, third legacy, generated notification message, send it to some other Kafka topic where component from some different team actually picked up the message, triggered on message handler, and send it somewhere. I can see that the overall execution path was way longer than it expected, but because I was shielded from a lot of execution, I did not witness the delay as the end customer. So me as a developer, I can see how the overall customer journey is executing, even though I am delivering only small, tiny portion of the overall solution. I can also take a look on maybe some logs. So show me what log lines were generated as part of this execution. You can see code now over here will prepare you the queries. So as a developer, I don't have to set up the query and all the relevant information is already filtered out for me. So I can see what's going on and I can actually correlate the log line itself with the trace. And I can see that this particular log line was written to the log as part of this specific execution path. So again, as a developer, I have all the relevant contextual information when debugging performance, when debugging mistakes. Last but not least, maybe I want to take a look at some time series data. So I know that was executing at travel dev environment. So show me what was happening on travel dev environment in last 1 hour. I can see some peaks. So this is what I'm interested in. Sorry, I can drill down to the namespace detail and it will show me, here is a front-end container, business logic, API, some mail sender. What was it doing? Well, not much. Do I have some CPU limits, for example, for the containers? Am I hitting those limits? How much memory is what eating? So that there is certainly some component, this one, which is eating a lot. What is that business logic? Okay, I can actually live with that. And I could go on and on. A lot of details over here are prepared out of the box. Of course, there is a lot of customizations options. And I believe one day we will have a webinar on how to customize code now from the pipeline perspective, logging backend perspective, maybe tracing backend or time series data backends to your company, to your team, and to whatever needs. But coming back to the very beginning, to be productive in the SDLC, I need to be able to quickly code, commit. I need to be able to quickly resolve problems. So as a developer, I can take a look, okay, travel development environment, show me what is deployed to this environment. I can see notification app, reservation app, some webhooks, no managed services. Okay, so where is the Kafka that this was actually writing to? I can take a look at this deployment, give me detail, and show me configuration. And I want to see, okay, API, connected services. And I can see, this Kafka is connected to this particular API component deployment, shared Kafka. What is shared Kafka? Let me search. Shared Kafka is here. And I can see, this is not actually doing very well. Let me show you some detail. Argo CD will quickly spit out all the details, and let me find the error over here. And I can see that the entity operator itself is doing fine, but there is some problem with Kafka exporter doing, well, some 400,000 restarts. Okay, what's going on? Now I can see what's going on. No space left on device. So what can I do about that? Probably not much. So what I should do, support, sorry for this, no space left on device. It is an incident. So over here, priority, well, component is failing because of that. Kafka exporter out of space. Make it happen. There you go. Now I can wait for somebody to actually pick up the error. In the meanwhile, what can I do? Well, I don't want to wait for anyone. So again, performance to the rescue. I will create new instance of Apache Kafka, my temp Kafka, and I will say it will be deployed to travel dev environment. Only workload which is deployed to the travel dev environment will be able to connect to the Kafka. I want to have it a really teeny tiny one. It's just a dev thing. Confirm, and my Kafka is on the way. And meanwhile, you can start asking questions as we are in the halfway through, and I will be happy to answer whatever you would like to ask. If there are no further questions, I will probably move over to some summarization. So, what are the benefits? Code now typically focuses on solving day-to-day, most often repeated situations of application developers. Platform teams and infrastructure and operation teams are there to make sure that code now is up and running in your environment, that code now has all the templates for component scaffolding, for monitoring, for logging, so it actually fits your internal environment. Nonetheless, as platform engineers, you will be spared of so many tickets coming from developers. So that's one benefit. Through that, developers have their productivity increased. On sample of some 1,000 developers, we have measured improvement about 20%, mostly through agile, most of those customers were running agile practices. We definitely can improve faster onboarding time because code now as orchestrator of developer tools, whether it's your tools or open source tools that code now actually brings in, does not really matter. Code now actually orchestrates the flow so everybody can find whatever they need very quickly, thus lowering the onboarding or the, speeding up the developer onboarding. All of that is actually helping you with the time to market, so you will ship your features sooner and you will start making money sooner. Code now fits companies of all sizes. You don't have to worry, it's not that much expensive. So we have small startup customers as well as mid-market customers, as well as Fortune 50 companies running it at a truly huge scales. Code now is ISO 27000 certified platform as a service, which means we do not resell infrastructure. You operate your managed Kubernetes clusters, or you hire someone to do it for you, AWS, Azure, GCP. And code now will be deployed to your Kubernetes clusters and will later on automate the daily tasks of your developers so you don't have to. Essentially, code now comes as I like to say something like Apple appliance. You just push a button and it just works. It works thanks to support of a lot of cloud native computing foundation components, which we orchestrate out of the box. Nonetheless, most of them we can help you either to upgrade to Enterprise Edition or to replace through adapters to whatever you have already running in your organizations. If you would like to connect to Datadog, New Relic, Dynatrace, we've been there, we've done that. I would say that's all from me. Thank you. And I hope that your path to improving SDLC in your organizations will be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra. Actually, there is a question here. Can you show changing hardware or cloud deployment destination and or giving devs access to resources for test workloads?
If I understand correctly, look, I will show you a different tenant over here. You can connect unlimited number of clusters to each tenant. So over here, you can see that I have 2 clusters connected. It is up to the platform team to solve the connectivity between the clusters. So if both of them are actually running within AWS, it's easy. It's if one of them is running in your private data center, well, you need to probably set up some VPN tunnel to make the connectivity between the clusters happen. But once you have clusters connected, and once you have given permissions to someone, I did not click everywhere, but I will show you now. Everywhere is role-based access control. So I can say to this cluster, who has permissions and what kind of permissions. You can create teams, you can add members to the teams. This configuration can come from your existing Active Directory, Entra, Ping, Federate, whatever identity and access management you have. And you just give somebody some permissions. So administrator, you can develop, you can give permissions to somebody, or you can just take a look, or maybe none, and then you don't see the cluster at all. Later on, when I have some 2 clusters, so anybody who has permissions to modify the cluster itself can create environments. Environment is essentially a Kubernetes namespace, where upon creation of the namespace, code now does again set some role-based access control through OIDC components. It will set up some logging through FluentBit, so you have some log syncs ready. It will set up Prometheus and some health probes, stuff like that. But I can create my test environment like that. Do I want to deploy from pipelines? Sure, why not? Which cluster I want this environment to be created at? Whatever cluster I have rights for. It will take just a second, and the new environment will be spin up. And at the moment environment is ready, I can again validate the permissions, but because I have created it, I should have rights to deploy to that. When environment is ready, I can deploy whatever I have access to. So then, if somebody gave me access to Travel Demo Notification app, I can then go and start deploying these packages. So I will go here and say deploy. Okay, let me make a related environment. So my test environment will be related to this. And I will say deploy to my test environment. Let's say this release. It will tell me, you have not satisfied. I don't know which Kafka notification topic you want to connect, and I don't know which Twilio endpoint you want to connect. Never mind. Let me show you. So shared Kafka, that's fine. Twilio, okay, I have some Twilio endpoint here. Very good. So I have created configuration for my newly created environment. Deploy. So the configuration for this deployment has been persisted to some Git repository, so I can revert to back later on. But now Argo CD will take a look to this Git repository and will start synchronizing the state of that environment, and we should be up and running in no time. If this answers the question.
Thank you very much, Petra, for the demonstration here. I personally feel it's a great capability of the application or the platform itself, where it gives a lot of power to the developer and enables them to, for instance, anytime they have, as mentioned, test workloads, they need to set up, provision their new environment, which needs to be as close to the real production as possible, and the devs are completely given the power. That being said, Petra, there are no further questions in the chat, so I believe this will be it for the webinar. So thank you very much, Petra, for the great presentation, and to all the viewers, I wish you a great day.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.